Tip 7. Do what you say you will do. Finish what you start, stay on task. There may be no greater measure of your character than evidence that you are a man or woman of your word. Dependability is...
NTA International News.
President Buhari launches National Reorientation campaign. Change begins with me. Calls for a sustained citizens' attitudinal change. INEC insists that Edo governorship election will hold as planned. Muslims head to Mecca as pilgrimage gets underway in the holy city. And gliz and glamour as the 2016 Rio Paralympics opens. Hello there, so good to have you join us on NTA International News. At this time, I am Oku Ekpayong. President Muhammadu Buhari this Thursday granted audience to the governors of Plateau and Yobe states in furtherance of his strategic consultations for national security, stability and economic development. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State told newsmen after the meeting held behind closed doors that his discussions with the president centered on the prevailing peace enterprise on the plateau as well as the economic diversification drive.
The president is always excited when you are talking about agriculture. And I think the president is developing a very special interest in Plateau. We've put in a lot of efforts in agriculture. It's Plateau and Kebbi that are now competing on the production of rice, and by next year we're exporting rice. The president was very excited about it and he has encouraged us to continue to do more.
Governor Lalong, who takes pride in the restoration of peace in Plateau State since coming to power, described the recent killing of a prominent traditional ruler as a setback, but promised that perpetrators will not escape justice.
I've not slept on it. Those are some of the things I also briefed Mr. President, that we're really very vigilant and we're really pursuing those who did that. Because after a full settlement for 1 year and some months, somebody will come and start executing this kind of thing. It's somebody who does not wish not only Plateau but Nigeria well.
Governor Ibrahim Gaidam of Yobe State also briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the security situation in the state, especially the plight of the internally displaced persons.
The Boko Haram terrorists occupied 2 of our local government areas of Bulani and Gujiba before they were liberated. As I am talking to you now, we have about 3,000 IDPs in our camp. I have briefed him how much we were able to do to the returnees IDPs, how best these people will be resettled, because they need a kind of rehabilitation of their destroyed homes by the Boko Haram terrorists, some reconstruction of their homes, those homes which were completely destroyed by the Boko Haram terrorists.
The governor said about 12 billion naira will be needed for the reconstruction, rehabilitation and resettlement program in Yobe State. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Change begins with me. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this at the formal launch of the National Reorientation campaign as part of the federal government's determination to carry all Nigerians along on the journey to a better and greater society. He charged citizens to also realize that the change they want to see begins with them. State House correspondent again, Adamu Sambo reports.
Change begins with you and we might people know. Governments can do it alone. Let's come together for change.
Indeed, I say to the glory of Almighty Allah, change begins with me.
The Change Begins With Me campaign, conceived by the Ministry of Information and Culture, is aimed at entrenching the values of accountability and integrity, as well as inculcating positive attitudinal change in Nigerians towards achieving comprehensive national development. President Muhammadu Buhari, while formally handing over the instrument of the Change campaign to the Minister of Information for transmission to all Nigerians, expressed worry that honesty, hard work, integrity, and godliness have given way to all kinds of manifestations of lawlessness and degeneration in Nigeria's national life.
It is the reason that some elements will break pipelines and other oil facilities, thus robbing the nation of much needed resources. It is the reason that money belonging to our commonwealth will be brazenly stolen by same public officials to whom they were entrusted. It is part of what has driven our economy into deep problems, out of which we are now working hard to extricate ourselves. We cannot fold our arms and allow things to continue the old way.
The president, who challenged Nigerians to summon new spirits of responsibility, service, patriotism, and sacrifice, said the nation cannot continue to have a thriving army of rent-seekers and vested interest while the majority suffers.
I am therefore appealing to all Nigerians to be part of this campaign. Our citizens must realize that the change they want to see begins with them. Before you ask, where is the change they promise us? You must first ask, how far have I changed my ways? What have I done to be part of the change for the greater good of society?
The Change Begins With Me campaign will be driven by government, but as President Buhari said, it must be strongly supported by all concerned individually.
In this regard, the private sector is a major stakeholder. Indeed, when the campaign succeeds, it will impact heavily on the private sector. A punctual, diligent, and hard-working staff can only be of benefit of not just himself or herself or the organization they work for, but to various governments, whether at local, state, or federal level.
The president charged the Ministry of Information and Culture as well as the National Orientation Agency to not only pursue the campaign vigorously, but also ensure its sustenance in all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria so that the young, the old, the rich, and the poor can buy in.
Change begins with me.
From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the Change Begins With Me campaign has no religious, ethnic or political affiliation, but a pan-Nigerian campaign to restore moral values and redirect society to the path of uprightness. Anthony Folsom reports.
Change begins with me. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this anything because change begins with me. Officer, find me something to make you take care. I'll make your weekend. Offense number 1, traveling without passports. Offense number 2, trying to drive and insult the and going to harass Nigerians all till right.
Jingles on the need to abhor bunkering or vandalism, promote punctuality, encourage public orderliness, as well as uphold moral values are at the core of the Change Begins With Me campaign. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed declared that it's the heralding of a new dawn for morals and value resuscitation in Nigeria.
The Change Begins With Me is a pan-Nigerian campaign that has no correlation whatsoever, whether it is political, religious, or ethnic. It is a campaign for all Nigerians with the sole objective of achieving a paradigm shift in the way we do things.
Director General, National Orientation Agency, Malam Garba Abari, said the campaign has become necessary due to the collapse of moral values in the society.
Namely, discipline, integrity, purpose, dignity of labor, social justice, self-reliance, and religious tolerance.
The Change Begins With Me campaign will be championed by the National Orientation Agency with the media as main drivers. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
For any government program to succeed, two major elements are always important: faithful implementation of the programs by policymakers and involvement of the citizenry. With the launching of the National Reorientation Program, Femi Okewo reports that the people remain the primary target. But how ready are they? His report.
It is customary for Nigerians to point accusing fingers at government for the state of affairs in the country. But just take a drive on any Nigerian road and you would easily be confronted by the role which the people play to bring the affairs to the level which it is, or even make it worse. Unfortunately, the people remain the primary victims of the same atrocities they commit, which is what the launch of the National Reorientation seeks to curb. The effect of what individual attitude can bring about in our daily lives is already playing out, even on the morning of the launching. The account we met here is that this truck pulled out of this corner without looking at the road, while some people also say that this jeep was coming on high speed. The effect of these two accounts is that if these two vehicles had been conscious of their role on the streets, this situation could have been averted. Poor work ethics, indiscriminate parking, negative traffic attitude, and poor waste disposal are just some of the areas where the reorientation would have to focus.
That campaign should entail self-discipline among Nigerians, do what is right without being compelled by a coercive force.
As a Nigerian or as a person, if you know the wrong things you're doing, you have to make it right for the benefit of others.
There should be a paradigm shift from government, from the person of the presidency to the individuals in the societies. Because the bulk of the injustice we see are actually from our own interactions with one another at the level we are.
While some people see this need, some don't even know what it's all about.
Change, it means people are suffering about change. As I'm doing now, I'm a worker, I'm an electrician. The way we get work before is not as now.
This is our road for federal housing to police somebody. The road is very bad. No road for this our Lugbe side.
While much of the campaign will be done through persuasion and advocacy, there are times when misdemeanors may be penalized. How does the law work in such circumstance?
The law will take its course. You cannot water down the law. Once you water down the law, you are increasing crime.
Taking a look at politics now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says after carefully weighing all the consequences and parameters of postponing the Edo State governorship election as advised on Wednesday by spokesperson of the Police and Department of State Services, DSS, the Commission had decided to go ahead with the conduct of the election, but postponed for 2 weeks. INEC's National Commission in charge of voter education and publicity, Solomon Shoyabi, stated this while addressing the media at the Edo State office of the Commission. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission says it will go ahead with the required processes as a build-up to the Edo State governorship elections scheduled for Saturday. INEC's Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Oluwole Osaze Uzi, stated the Commission's position on NTA's current affairs program, Good Morning Nigeria. Salihu Abdullahi has the report.
Guests on the program expressed divergent views on the latest development and call for more synergy and cooperation among key players to ensure that the Edo elections are conducted without any hitch.
The misconception that the police and DSS are postponing elections should be corrected. We don't. We don't have powers to postpone elections. It is INEC that has such power, but we're a critical stakeholder when involved to security. And when we have intelligence, we need to share those intelligence.
So let us see what Edo people will do if the election does hold on Saturday, and let us see whether our behavior in Edo State on Saturday, if the election goes ahead, will be a model for the nation at large.
I think the security should step up. The threat is there, but they are also ready. I want to count on their readiness rather than the threat.
INEC's Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Oluwole Osaze Uzi, said INEC has put in place all that is required for the election.
So it is simultaneous accreditation and voting. Well, not quite simultaneous, but immediately after you get accredited, you vote. You don't have to go home. So that's the procedure at 8 o'clock in the morning or any time before 2 p.m. Between 8 people.
Now, any act that can cause disintegration of a united Nigeria must be jettisoned. Executive Secretary, Center for Crisis Communication, Air Commodore Yusuf Anas, said this at a press briefing geared towards building a safe and secure country in Abuja. Olayinka Ojo reports.
Expressing concern on the unwholesome states of Nigerian prisons, its congestion and recurring jailbreaks, Air Commodore Yusuf Anas said there's the need for overhauling of the country's criminal justice system to ensure rapid administration of justice to decongest the prisons. On the situation of internally displaced persons and relief materials donated by both government and non-governmental organizations to cushion the effect of their untold hardship, the Executive Secretary, Center for Crisis Communication, described the diversion and rebag of some of the items for sale in the market as inhuman. Lauding Nigerian military in the fight against insurgency and government's intervention in the herdsmen-farmers clashes, Commodore Anas appealed to the Niger Delta militant group who damage critical national infrastructure that result to environmental degradation to restrain.
Niger Delta leaders and indeed all well-meaning Nigerians should please key in to provide whatever is necessary to ensure that the militants embrace dialogue and the olive branch provided by the government.
Fielding questions on the call for restructuring of Nigeria, the Executive Secretary of the Center advocated the need to believe and encourage healthy cross-fertilization of ideas and exchanges aimed at making our democracy and country great. In Abuja, Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
You're watching news on NTA International, coming to you live from Abuja. More news after the break. Stay with us.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Nigeria today joined the rest of the world to commemorate International Literacy Day. It is to raise people's awareness on literacy issues as the world celebrates the 50th edition with the theme Reading the Past, Writing the Future. Justin Bemuyi reports.
The event was first celebrated in 1966 when the UNESCO officially proclaimed September 8 as International Literacy Day. A recent survey by UNESCO and UNICEF revealed that despite improvements in Nigeria's education system, over 65 million Nigerians remain illiterate, with such statistics of an alarming illiteracy rate having its attendant adverse impacts on both individual and societal levels. Commentators say it is a matter of national urgency that efforts should be made to redress the crisis.
To eradicate illiteracy requires a lot of things, the paramount of which is the political will.
They argue that people who are illiterate are far more likely to live in poverty, facing a lifetime of poor health and social vulnerability, adding that low levels of literacy and general education can impede economic development of a country in the current rapidly changing technology-driven world.
You can have programs, but then you also need to mobilize, sensitize and mobilize the learners. Show them the importance of literacy education for their own present and future development and that of their own children and children's children.
The people believe that steps towards reducing illiteracy should be viewed as an investment rather than a cost for both governments and households, as the future of the country and the people will be closely tied to achieving widespread literacy. Justin Bem-Unyi, NTA News.
Let's join Moplang Dakok for some financial reports.
Hello and thanks for joining us. Nigeria has lost 23.1 million barrels of crude oil from August 16 to September 5 due to activities of Niger Delta militants. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Ibe Kachiku, who made this known, said the country has to produce an additional 1.1 million barrels of oil per day between now and December to recover the loss and meet the targeted yearly production. Nigeria's daily crude oil production fluctuates between 1.4 million barrels and 1.6 million barrels. The National Bureau of Statistics reveals that Nigeria's gross domestic product GDP contracted by 2.06 in the second quarter of 2016 after shrinking by 0.36% in the first quarter. The NBS figures show that Nigeria attracted just $647.1 million of capital in the second quarter, a 76% fall year-on-year and 9% down from the first quarter. South Africa's business confidence rose in the third quarter as data revealed by the Bureau for Economic Research has shown, although the survey said it could fall again over uncertainty facing the finance minister of that country. On Commodity Watch, oil prices have risen as gold has held its 3-week high. Here's a look at prices of some commodities this Thursday. The commodity market wraps up the segment. I am Moplang Dakok.
The image of the pilgrim in white or ihram is one associated with the Hajj pilgrimage. Simple yet symbolic, it is an emblem of universal brotherhood, humanity and submission to Allah. Ahmed Mbali, in our next report from Saudi Arabia, joined other pilgrims to do the ihram. He shares with us the experience as a pilgrim fulfilling the pillar of the Hajj.
Ihram is an Arabic word that denotes a sacred state which a Muslim must enter in order to perform Umrah or Hajj. It has two aspects, the zone or miqat and the clothes, libas. We got to one of the designated zones en route Mecca in our normal clothes. Now, putting on these two pieces of clothing by the intending pilgrim indicates his intention to perform the Hajj. Of course, he has to also utter the words Labbaik Hajj, Labbaik Umrah, depending on what sort of Hajj he is performing.
Some people may decide to do what we call Ifrad, that is only Hajj without Umrah, or Tamattu, which is Umrah and Hajj. Umrah first, then Hajj, or they do Ikran, which is just they do Umrah and Hajj together, combined.
The women maintain their normal clothes without face covering or gloves. It's a humbling experience.
And now to stories from other parts of the world with Adebola Brooksland Sunday.
More than 100 fighters loyal to the South Sudan sacked Vice President Riek Machar are reportedly found in extremely bad shape. A report from the UN in the Democratic Republic of Congo says they were discovered near the border and have been evacuated by helicopter to receive medical treatment. Mr. Machar, who joined a unity government, fled and was also aided by the UN in Democratic Republic.